everybody, thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Bumblebee. And as you guys can tell from the thumbnail and the title, I'm once again joined in this video by my boy, the Big Rob Theory. A little over a year ago at this point, I had my very first collab here on this channel, and it was with my boy Robbie, the Big Rob Theory. He was just starting his channel that weekend. We were hanging out, we went to Disney World that day, and I was like, man, you should start a channel. He decided to start one, but before that I was like, hey man, would you like to collab on one of my videos and be the first person to collaborate? And the first movie we ever did together was Transformers. And looking back on that review, it's really crazy to see how much my channel has grown and how comfortable the two of us have gotten in front of the camera. It's really awesome to go back and look at that. The lighting was terrible. We were kind of all over the place and we weren't really the best at breaking down our thoughts. But looking at how much both of our channels have grown and how much more comfortable we've gotten in front of the camera, it's been really awesome to see that growth and progression when you go back and watch older videos. But either way, I'm probably going to tell you guys right now, I'm going to have the Big Rob Theory in every single Transformers review here on my channel as long as he is down. He is the biggest Transformers fan that I've ever met. He knows stuff from the comics, he knows stuff from the cartoons and all that really well. Now for me, I am definitely a huge Transformer fan. I grew up watching the original series and watching the various series that would come out. I've seen every movie and it's just a series that I've had a lot of fun with. Some of the video games have been some of my favorite Transformer things of all time, but I haven't really read any of the comic books and I'm not super well versed on a lot of the really deep lore. So that's why I invited Rob to be in this video with me. I know he was really excited to check this movie out and I'm really bummed that I missed this one in theaters. I missed it in theaters. I really wanted to. I said it in my recent reviews for Brightburn and Bohemian Rhapsody. There was just a couple movies here and there that just, like, as far as my work schedule and things like that, it just never allowed me to actually take time and go check the movie out. But I finally picked this movie up on Blu-ray, got to see it, and yeah, I had a great time with this film. This film stars Hailee Steinfeld as well as John Cena, which I thought was going to be very weird when he was first cast in it, but I thought he fits the role pretty well. And yeah, this is essentially a prequel reboot. I guess I'll go ahead and say right now, I'm not going to necessarily go into massive spoilers of the story, but I will be kind of dropping some spoilery things here and there. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to hear absolutely anything about it, feel free to leave. But if you don't really care too much and you don't mind me saying a couple things, then stick around because there's a lot of really good stuff to say about this movie. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. Like I mentioned, it is a prequel. Usually I like to do my reviews, at least if it takes some time to do them, at least some in order of the release or at least the timeline of the franchise. And in this case, since it's a prequel and we're going backwards and I haven't done anything other than the first Transformers film, I feel like it's not that big of a deal. And it's not only a prequel, but it's also a soft reboot. There are things that happen in this film, specifically something at the very end in the post-credit scene that 100% leans into the fact that this movie is a soft reboot and that they're relaunching the franchise and is not exactly directly connected to the events of the Michael Bay universe of Transformers films. Now I think it goes without saying that as those sequels continue to come out of the Michael Bay films, yeah, you know, the reviews went down, the action was great, and there's some great visuals and some beautifully well put together action sequences, but over time the stories got crazier and crazier and not necessarily in the best way, or the movies just started to feel hollow where there really wasn't much to root for or attach to other than really cool robot action. And I'm a big sci-fi and fantasy nerd. If you guys have been watching this channel for a while, you know that I've praised plenty of films that are not necessarily fantastic and that have a lot of really great visuals to them and some great action sequences. Without a doubt, there's so much about those films that is a lot of fun. However, even myself, as time went on, a lot of those stories and the narrative around this action was starting to be a little bit lackluster. Some of the films started to mesh together and they started to become a little bit more forgettable. Now, even though that first film has a lot of Michael Bay-isms in it, there's a lot about it that I really enjoyed, and I remember being really excited to go see that movie the year it came out, and it still kind of holds up as a really fun Transformers film. So here we are with this one that got crazy good reviews. I was hearing so many great things about this movie from people that I knew kind of had just given up on the Transformers franchise, and right out of the gate I can go ahead and say I love this film. And I think that if you were a Transformers fan and have not seen this film because maybe you felt burned by the other movies and you kind of just always wanted to see your childhood brought to life in a beautiful way, I think this might be your movie. Visually, without a doubt, this film is one of the best in the franchise. It's really stellar. It leans into that very over-the-top and colorful vibrantness of the old animated stuff and some of the more modern-day video games, but at the same time definitely has its own unique style and visuals. And I'm by no means a Michael Bay hater, but it is nice to have somebody new in the director's chair, somebody with a different vision, someone that can take this universe and do something different with it. And I think that this movie definitely does that. I really enjoy how this movie opens up. It's everything that you've ever wanted. I've always wanted to see the war for Cybertron brought to screen in a beautifully vibrant way, and the movie opens up with some of the most beautiful and badass action that we've ever seen in a Transformers film. We are finally on Cybertron, seeing the war that we always hear about, that we've seen in other things, but being able to see it in live action. Obviously, it's all CG at this point, but the CG is top notch, the action is beautiful, and I think that for me, that right out of the gate let me know that I was about to watch a film that was made by a Transformers fan for Transformers fan. It wasn't about adding this and that and having so many humans, though there are a lot of really annoying and kind of nonsensical humans in this film. I felt like the Transformers stuff was executed really, really well, and I just love the opening sequence of this film. It felt like I was a kid again. It felt like I was watching Transformers the way Transformers is meant to be watched. Not too long into the film, we're introduced to Hailee Steinfeld's character, who plays this young kind of, you know, rebel teen who loves cars. She wants to have her own car. Her parents don't really want her to have a car. They don't really want to pay for it. She ends up finding this old beat up bug, which ends up being Bumblebee. He has escaped from Cybertron and was sent by Optimus Prime to kind of find the Autobots a new home. In a lot of ways, this film reminds me of like a blend of Transformers and E.T. You have the alien that's coming down, and in this case now, because of the way that he's landed and what he's gone through, he doesn't have his vocal cords. We get to see that progression of him like kind of getting used to the fact that he doesn't have vocal cords. In the other films with Shia LaBeouf, especially at the beginning, he already was kind of talking with the radio, and in this film we kind of get to see that progression to where he kind of starts to do that. And at the beginning, he doesn't know how to communicate. He's afraid, you know, this really badass robot is on this very fragile Earth and with very fragile beings, but he's afraid and he's trying to stay in hiding, and he knows the Decepticons are possibly looking for him, and so he kind of has to stay in hiding. He's also trying to find a way that he can let the Autobots know about Earth. And I really enjoyed the relationship between Hailee Steinfeld's character and Bumblebee in this film. Again, it felt very much like the Elliot and E.T. kind of feel in that original film, and in this film, I just had a good time with it. I felt like their camaraderie was really cute, and there was something about it that had a really good charm, and on top of it, you have some really, really great action and visuals in the mix of it, and I felt the performances were fairly grounded for what the film is. Now, before I give you my final thoughts on this movie, let's go ahead and hear what my boy, the Big Rob Theory, had to say about this.
What up, guys? Thanks for joining me today. It's your boy, the Big Rob Theory. I want to say thank you, Anthony, for incorporating me into this video, especially because, well, hello. Huge Transformers fan here. So, again, I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be a part of this review on your channel. Today, I'm going to be presenting Bumblebee to you. Oh my goodness. So, just from the beginning of the movie, like literally the start of the movie, sorry, something just like flew in my eye. What the hell was that? So from the start of the movie, it is just amazing. This movie, I think, was specifically made for die-hard, true to the core Transformers fans. Obviously, you know, even if you're not a Transformers fan, you can like this movie, duh. But I think that this movie was mainly meant to touch on like the heartstrings of true fans of Transformers, because from the opening cinematic, you get that old school Transformer vibe, like with a just amazing tone of battle. And that's not really a spoiler, so don't worry. We good. The intro of this movie is astounding. The cinematography that went into it was beautiful to make it look so genuine and authentic to the original cartoons, to be honest with you. The way how the Transformers were and the way how the battles went, it just looked amazing, man. Our main character, Charlie, who's played by Hailee Steinfeld, she did a great job. Great job as the like main human in this Transformers movie. John Cena was also in this movie as Agent Burns. And to be honest, I didn't think that John Cena was going to be as good in this movie as he was. Like, I like John Cena, but I didn't think that for a Transformers movie, and especially this one, Bumblebee no less, I didn't think that he would be as impactful as he was. But I did like the way how his character was. I loved the development throughout the movie, and I loved the interactions that he had with people. He wasn't necessarily a dick, but he was very stern, you know, and I mean, obviously anybody within the army ranks and law enforcement and everything is going to be stern, but he played that role exceptionally well. I gotta give props to him for nailing that role, in my opinion. Jorge Lendeborg Jr. plays Memo, another main character. The chemistry between Charlie and him is pretty awesome, and it's innocent, if you will. And when you watch the movie, if you haven't seen it already, you'll understand what I mean. I don't really want to spoil anything. That's not my shtick. So the basic plot of this movie is, in essence, what the majority of people already know, which we've seen in, you know, the Michael Bay movies, previous installments, in some cartoons, comics, and all that stuff. But I'm not really going to say anything that'll give anything away. So in essence, Bumblebee makes it to Earth. The way how he comes to Earth, I will not divulge, because that is a journey in and of itself. He's on Earth and he's kind of hiding out here, you know, waiting, as in the first Transformers movie we see how he's already on Earth, you know, and then the other Transformers show up. So for years, you know, even after the movies, the sequels came out, I'm sorry, we all were like, you know, so Bumblebee was already there, but how did Bumblebee get there? This is the story of how Bumblebee got there and what Bumblebee was doing and has been doing up until he truly meets up with Optimus Prime, which is played by none other than Peter Cullen, the man. Yeah, Bumblebee is here on Earth. He's pretty much chilling, just lying in wait, being patient. And lo and behold, through various events that happen in the movie, Charlie stumbles upon Bumblebee, and it's the typical story at first, you know, just a simple car. Probably has its quirks because it's an older car. And then eventually things happen to where she finds out that it's just not a normal car. Then the movie gets going, baby. In regards to the acting, I honestly have to say, aside from some cheesy moments that I was totally there for, it was really good. I loved the interaction between Charlie and her family. You know, they just think that she's just this depressed little girl, but you know, she's a teenager, man. You know, she's about to turn 18. So of course she's discovering herself as an individual and also a young woman, you know? So it's difficult for her, especially in that time. It was around 1987. You got a lot of different things in social groups and movements and things that obviously weren't portrayed in the movie, but around that time period, a lot of things were going on too. So you got to take that into account with this movie, especially with the tone of the movie. The soundtrack to this movie was on point. Oh my goodness. Wow. So I love all kinds of music, but rock and roll has been, is now still, and will always be my favorite genre of music. Yeah. The 80s vibe and the 80s music and the dance rock and the groovin' rock and everything that was in this movie, music-wise, was just so perfect in every setting of the movie. So like I said, with the cinematography and the soundtrack together was just a cinematic journey of amazing awesomeness. I was shocked to see that the rating for this movie on IMDb is a 6.8 out of 10. Ooh, that's rough, because that is nowhere near accurate in my opinion. And from what I've heard from other people who have seen this movie, 6.8 is disrespect. This honestly should be an 8.5. I know that's pretty high, but Transformers fans, tell me if you agree. This movie was the perfect Transformers movie for any fan. I don't understand how it's below a 7, but hey, you know, well, whatever, here we are. Thank you guys for being part of that review, listening to me kind of fanboy and get off topic. Thanks again to Anthony for incorporating me in this video, man. Appreciate you, bro. Until next time, until next time, homies.
Big thanks to Robbie for being in this video. As usual, guys, you can find the links to his channel down below in the description box. He's got some amazing content he's been putting out lately. The YouTube algorithm gods have been praising his channel, and he's been getting a lot of great views. I love seeing the growth on his channel. So guys, if you enjoy comic books, if you enjoy DC specifically, if you enjoy The Flash, Transformers, and all that jazz, head on over to Robert's channel. The link is down below. He's got so many things coming out. He's got some great content. Really happy to have you in this video, man. Appreciate you sharing your Transformers Transformers love with us. So like I mentioned, John Cena is in this film too, and he plays the human villain in this. We do have some Decepticon villains that are also in the mix here that end up getting intertwined with all of them. And John Cena is a really likable guy, so I wanted to like him right out of the gate. We've had that thing where some wrestlers try to become film actors, and sometimes it doesn't always work. But in this case, I feel like he fit the tone very well. What I enjoyed about this film is that it didn't feel like the Michael Bay films. It wasn't overly sexualized. It wasn't really writing on raunchy jokes and kind of some dialogue that's over the top and silly and trying to be funny by doing over the top and silly things. It was charming, it was cute, it was action-packed, it was fun, and it felt like an adventure. On top of it being this sci-fi epic, it also felt like a film about friendship and kind of unconventional friendships, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the relationship between Hailee Steinfeld's character and Bumblebee. Bumblebee in this film is very charming, he's super cute, and it made me enjoy his character a lot more. And one thing I also loved about the way that the action was shot in this film is one big criticism that you guys would see a lot when it came to the Michael Bay films was that there was so much going on, so many cuts, so many things happening, the camera would be kind of shaky, and with so many robots clashing at times, you couldn't always see what was going on as clear as you would have liked to have. And in this film, you have wide shots, which I feel like nowadays a lot more directors are realizing is something that makes a lot of the action sequences a lot better, where you can kind of just have the camera sit back and let all of us see what's happening. I think that's some of the coolest action you can do if you have really inventive camera angles where it can be exciting without it consistently moving or having a lot of cuts. It can be really engaging. I think that this film did a great job of letting us know where the characters are in the action and what the stakes are. And that's another thing, this film does have a high sense of stakes. I will say it's fairly predictable. You kind of know where a lot of things are going to go. There are some human characters in the fold that I feel is not necessarily a perfect element of this film. I feel like that's the one thing they struggle with when it comes to these Transformers films, is a lot of human characters that aren't necessarily compelling, don't really feel like they need to be there. And when I watch this film, there's definitely quite a bit of that. There's specifically this love interest of this guy that I've seen in a bunch of movies in recent years. He was in Alita Battle Angel and a few other things. And yeah, he's kind of the guy who wants to get with Hailee Steinfeld's character. And I enjoyed his role. I enjoy the kind of, relationship he tries to have with Hailee Steinfeld's character, but he kind of just feels like a tacked on human love interest that really doesn't really grow to be a real love interest, that just kind of feels pointless really when you go back and watch the movie. But on an overall level, I didn't hate him. I just felt like a lot of the human characters, similar to some of the past Transformers films, were a little bit useless and didn't really need to be there. However, the relationship between Hailee Steinfeld's character and Bumblebee was really well done. I hadn't really seen anything with her in it that I was ever like blown away at as far as her performance, and she doesn't necessarily give a riveting performance here, but she definitely gives a believable performance, and I enjoy the camaraderie between her and Bumblebee. I believed it, I bought it, I was into it. It felt like I was a kid again watching old school Transformers. That was another thing. Some of the designs on characters like Optimus Prime that you do get to see in this film for a brief period of time were old school. The way that the film looked and felt like I was a Transformers fan back when I was a kid, and that's something that I think definitely appeases the fans a lot more. Again, you can feel that this film was made by a Transformers fan who wanted to see certain things brought to screen that the last 7 or 8 films, I can't even remember how many there are at this point, didn't have. You know what I mean? That this film didn't try to modernize it. It took us back to the past. I think it takes place in like the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And then on top of that, you also have the fact that it has this old school aesthetic to these characters. And I had a great time with it. I do highly recommend it. And I think it's either my favorite Transformers film or my second favorite Transformers film. Either way, it's definitely better than majority of the franchise. And I think that I can see a lot of people who didn't like those other films really enjoying this film. Again, it's like E.T. meets Transformers, which is never a bad thing. And I think that it was really well done. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. It's a film that I can see myself revisiting a lot more. Again, the first 5 to 6 minutes of this film, it's just so well done. It's a beautiful Transformers action the way you've wanted to see it. It's for the fans, made by the fans, and I had a great time with it. I highly recommend this film, guys. Definitely leave your comments down below. What do you like about this movie? What do you not like about this film? Again, down below in the description box, you guys can find the link for the Big Rob Theory. I appreciate you being in this video with me, man. And as usual, guys, you guys can catch me in the next one. Bye-bye.